So Kaz headed to Twitter this morning to reveal that 3 new cars are coming in a brand new update to GT7 next week, and this one was overall a much earlier reveal than typical. In fact, it's coming on the second to last Thursday of the month instead of the typical final Thursday. But before we get into this video, I'm trying to get this channel to 60,000 subscribers by the end of this year. So if you want to stay up to date with everything Gran Turismo and motorsport gaming related, then feel free to leave a like, subscribe and turn your notifications on. Anyway, let's get to it. So here are the new silhouettes for Gran Turismo 7's latest batch of cars. As you can see, we're going to be getting 3 of them, and in terms of the actual silhouettes themselves, we see that the style that was kind of revealed last month has been carried over once again to these silhouettes this month. However, it does seem that they've been a lot more careful in terms of hiding away a lot of the finer details for the silhouettes to make them much more difficult to actually go ahead and guess what they are. Now, apart from the odd small detail here and there, really the only thing we get to go off to actually guess these silhouettes is the actual body shape of the car, meaning that at least one of these is extremely difficult to guess, and you'll probably be able to guess which one that is. It's the one over on the right hand side. However, once again, as always, I will try my best to give it my best shot on what I believe these 3 vehicles to be. So let's go ahead and get started with the first silhouette then. So we'll start off with the main silhouette of the bunch, which is this one over here on the left hand side, and I think this is probably the most obvious one of the bunch. It's undeniably an R34 GTR, as we can see from the boxy like shape and of course the iconic rear wing. Now, the first thing that you're probably thinking is we already have the R34 in GT7, and you would be 100% correct. Of course, when it comes to Gran Turismo 7 currently, we have the road going version and the GT500 variant, which of course this certainly isn't. When it comes to racing or time attack variants of the R34, they typically remove the rear wing to something much more aggressive, but as we can see with this model of R34, that is still in place. So that definitely makes me think that it is some type of road going variant of the R34 GTR. Almost like a duplicate from what we saw all the way from, Gran Turismo 2 onwards. So to try and pinpoint this specific model of R34 GTR that we're looking at, I just used a typical bit of logic as to what's happened to pre-existing GTRs when they've then got another variant added to GT7, and that is of course Nismo. We had it with the R32, which then got the Nismo R32 GTR. We had it with the R33, which got the 400R. The only one that is missing a Nismo variant is of course the R34 GTR. So really the only logical reason to have another R34 show up in the silhouettes is that this is some type of Nismo R34 GTR, and preferably for me, I hope it is the Z tune. Of course, that is an absolute monster of a car and really is the ultimate R34 GTR. Now, if I'm right here, I believe it was either the 30th or the 20th anniversary of Nismo, and it was built to celebrate that. Of course, it was based on the R34 GTR, but it was completely transformed into a 2.8 litre 493 brake horsepower monster, and I believe there were rumours that it had a top speed of over 200 miles per hour, which was just absolutely ridiculous. So in terms of this being an R34, I do fully agree, and I think that more than likely it's going to be some type of Nismo variant rather than one of the tuning shop versions that we've seen in previous titles. Anyway, next up, let's move into the second silhouette that I believe I have a decent idea of exactly what it is, and it is the one right at the back. Now, I think we all know by just the shape and size of this thing that it is some type of K-car. That is absolutely undeniable, typically Japanese, and whilst a lot of people might not enjoy these, I think they are an integral part of Gran Turismo as a whole. So for me, I will really enjoy it, and the more of these we actually get, the better, because I think they're an incredibly enjoyable type of vehicle that we don't really see in many other racing games. Now, in terms of the actual model itself, there is a few things we can go off here. Number one is of course the antenna or the aerial of the car. You can see that it's rather quite short and it's placed just off to the side, and also at the back we do see some type of rear spoiler. So for me, that gives away that it's some type of sporty version of a modern K car. Now, the only other detail we can really go off here is at the front of the vehicle, where it seems this circular shape of where the headlight fixings would be sort of go up into the bonnet. So really, those are the only details we can take away from here, is the spoiler, the antenna being off to the side, and of course what seems to be circular sort of shaped front lights. So in the end, I settled on it being this, the Honda N1 RS. This is the second generation of Honda N1, of course very much a K car. Now, it is incredibly difficult to source high quality images of the actual car itself, but it pretty much matches up. You may be able to see just slightly towards the left of the car, right at the back there, the rear wing, which typically sort of pokes out. We do have the aerial, which is in sort of an offset position, and of course those circular front lights, which sort of eat away into the bonnet area. Very circular, very, very distinct, and I think this is almost certainly going to be the Honda N1 RS, which is the sort of top of the range sporty model of this car, at least from the very little information that is out there for this thing. Honestly, finding proper information on this thing was incredibly difficult. A lot of the websites I was going to were in Japanese and I couldn't translate the page. It was just so frustrating to get proper information to tell you more about this vehicle. But in terms of the actual silhouette itself, I do believe it to be the Honda N1 RS. Now, of course, the last type of K vehicle we had added to the game was, of course, the Suzuki Carry K truck, which was absolutely fantastic. One of the better additions so far this year, I'd say, especially in terms of customization to make it into some sort of little mini race truck. I think it was fantastic. So for me personally, I've got high hopes with another K car being just as good in terms of customization. I do really feel this could be a little bit of a hidden gem if the K cars in GT7 are anything to go by. Okay, so let's move in to the final silhouette then. I think this is certainly the most difficult one to actually predict. There's very little detail to go off here. Really, the only things we can sort of go off is the actual shape itself, what seems to be some of those bars on the roof, and the rear right hand side light does seem to protrude out from the back of the vehicle. Now, honestly, I think this is going to be a bit of a copy paste one once again, to be totally truthful. Now, of course, when it comes to 2025 and Gran Turismo, we've had a huge run of SUV and crossovers, and honestly, I was thinking along those routes at first, and I think I probably still am, but this one is so incredibly difficult to really pinpoint exactly what it is. One of the most common suggestions I've seen for this exact silhouette is, of course, the Lexus LBX. But when I was trying to look into the images of this vehicle, the sort of body lines and what matches up and what doesn't, this one didn't exactly fit the bill. Maybe it's just the silhouette having detail removed, but things like the wind mirrors didn't match up. It didn't have the bars on top in any of the images. I just couldn't find anything that really specifically matched up with it. So whilst personally I don't necessarily think it is the Lexus LBX, I do think we're in the Toyota family of vehicles. I think it's more than likely from Toyota themselves. Every time I look at this silhouette, the only thing I can really see is some type of Toyota Yaris. So for me personally, the only thing I can really settle on is something like the more road-going basic variant of a Toyota Yaris, or maybe even something like a Yaris Cross, rather than, you know, like the full-fledged GR version that we already have in game. So for me personally, this is an incredibly difficult one to actually decipher what that silhouette is, and my pick is going to be some type of more basic variant of a Toyota Yaris. Anyway, those are my picks for the 3 new cars coming to GT7 next week. If you think I'm wrong, let me know what you think they are in the comment section down below. Now, of course, we'll get the full reveal probably on Wednesday, so we'll be able to dig through and see what's in the update and exactly what these cars are. But until then, I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.